How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Blade Runner Black Lotus. This is Season 1, Episode 1, City of Angels. This is from November 13th, 2021, and I guess I should get to that. Cartoon Network / Adult Swim aired both the first and second episode back to back, and in turn a lot of other YouTubers are talking about both of them in one video. That was just kind of bugging my OCD, and I wanted to give each episode its own video, so we're just talking about episode 1, but I'm gonna try to post episode 2's review relatively quickly, and by the time you're watching this, it's probably already out. At the end of the video, a playlist will pop up, and that should be my Blade Runner playlist. I've talked about a lot of things like the comic, the first movie, Kurt Russell's Soldier, and in that playlist, there should be episode 2's video if it's out, which it should come relatively quickly. But anyway, just talking about episode 1 this time around. This series was developed and this episode was directed by both Kenji Kamiyama and Shinji Aramaki, sorry if I'm mispronouncing those names, and stars Jessica Henwick. This was made by Adult Swim and Crunchyroll. And overall, the first time I heard about this series was in a print ad in a comic book, and I saw, ooh, Blade Runner on Adult Swim, a Blade Runner cartoon. I love animation, and I love Blade Runner. I was really looking forward to this. And it wasn't till a while later, like right before the series came out, that I looked up the trailer. And yeah, seeing it in a non-print ad, because in a print ad you can get the image looking pretty good, right? But seeing actual pieces from the show, it did lower my expectations a bit, but I was still interested in it. But it wasn't until right before I did this review that I looked up some, basic information. I was doing some research, and I saw just how much hate that initial trailer was getting, and I see why it was getting that hate. There are some definite flaws that we will be talking about, but overall, having seen both the first 2 episodes, it's okay. It's not a great show, and I do want to definitely say it's nowhere near as good as where the movies are, but that being said, it's still kind of a dumb fun show. If you want to turn your brain off and watch some cool sci-fi, grungy future stuff, it's not great. It's nowhere near the movies, and that's what a lot of people are getting at is you say this is Blade Runner, but it's not philosophical and it's kind of cheesy and more poppy, and that is a big thing. And like even in the first episode, I don't think they really talk too much about replicants or Blade Runners even. So yeah, this really does feel like a different type of story that just happens to be set in the same world. But that being said, it's still kind of dumb fun, and it feels more like what tie-in media was like 10 years ago than a lot of the cooler tie-in media we've been getting lately. I mean, I'll watch it, but yeah, I do wish it was better, but still, there's some fun to be had here. But the main things people are talking about, it's 3D animation instead of 2D, and I definitely would have preferred 2D animation. 2D animation is just so much cooler, the style and stuff, and 3D has a tendency to date very fast or just not look as good, and they went with a realistic style, and I find that a lot of the better 3D stuff kind of goes for a more stylized approach, because if it's stylized, we go, oh hey, it's a cartoon, that's just how it's supposed to look. But if you try to look realistic, if you try to go, okay, these are real people, like we noticed that, and CGI, realistic CGI, has gotten so good lately that when you try to go for realism, we expect a whole lot, and people are very hard. Humans are really hard to make look realistic, and that's what you're mainly filming in a show like this. So if they had made it a little bit more stylized, maybe made it look a little bit more anime, then it would have been a little bit more forgiven. But yeah, they just kind of look a little bit plastic. I do want to say though, when it's not the people, when you look at things like the spinners and the city, the backgrounds are pretty good in the show, you know? The neon lights, the grungy atmosphere, the costuming still looks pretty cool. It's just, yeah, you went with a realistic style for people and didn't have the budget to pull off realism. So that's definitely a thing. Also, I gotta talk about the voice work. All the voices in here, across the board, come off a little stilted, you know? And it really does feel like a point-and-click adventure. And a large part of that is not the voice acting, although there is some improvement to be made there. But a large part of that is they put an awkward space between the dialogue. And that's one of these things, and I see it in like low-budget films all the time. People have this fear of silence, which is why we say ums and uhs a lot. That's just a little tick that people have. But in turn, people waiting between sentences, talking to each other, saying, hello, I would like to do this. Well, that is fine. That just feels awkward to us. So it's that little spacing that when you're editing, you're like, okay, line, space, line. You think that's okay, but it just has this weird, unnatural feeling about it. And there is, you know, just awkward line spacing here, so it does, you know, make the dialogue come off as a little more awkward. It's actually more naturalistic if people talk over each other than if everybody's giving each other space. So that is a definite issue with the voice work there. And this does have a pretty cliched Amnesia plot. I actually, right before this, rewatched the original Resident Evil movie in preparation for the new one, and it's a very similar to the Amnesia plot from Resident Evil's first movie, where she wakes up, doesn't know who she is, gets these flashes of memory, and of course finds out she knows martial arts. Very, very similar to that. And yeah, it's not philosophical like Blade Runner is supposed to be. Hardly any talk about replicants, hardly any talk about Blade Runners. And you do kind of expect those stuff. You expect musings on the nature of life and, you know, death and stuff like that. And you don't get that. It's much more pop. The music is really upbeat. And the main girl wears these like short shorts and what appears to be the Blade Runner universe's version of Converse. She looked like she'd be more at home in a modern American shopping mall than she would in the Blade Runner universe. So yeah, it does feel a little too modern and a little too pop. And another question people are asking, and it's, I don't know, kind of a silly question, is people go, is this anime? You know, it's Japanese directors, but an American company. It's 3D, and anime is usually 2D, and a lot of people want to call this Blade Runner the anime. And I don't know, I don't really care too much for this debate. Personally, I always felt that good animation is good animation, and it doesn't matter if it comes from one country or the other, you know? So is it anime or not? I don't really care. It's just, is it good animation or is it not good animation? Do I care for it or do I not? And yeah, you can call this anime if you want to. Like I said, it doesn't really matter to me what country something comes from. And I think more than anime or not, it's secretly trying to ask, is it made for adults or not? Because in America, sadly, animation tends to be thought of as just a children's thing. But if you guys are anime fans, there is some good animation aimed at adults that came from over here. Think things like the works of Ralph Bakshi, or Heavy Metal, or the first season of Love, Death, and Robots. So there is some good American animation, although that being said, a lot of cool stuff has come from Japan lately. But anyway, we've talked a lot about the issues up front. Let's go ahead and talk a bit about the plot. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers. I'm not going to talk about the end bits, but I do want to say my piece on a few of the plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what the show's about. But I guess since it's a pilot, I will wind up talking more about the plot than normal. So if you guys don't want to know anything, just know it's okay, it's not great, definite faults, but if you got the time, you might as well watch it, you know. Cool to see the Blade Runner world, even without the Blade Runner story. It's fine, but not great. So let's go ahead and talk a bit about that plot. We get a girl waking up in the back of a self-driving truck. kind of like how you saw them in Logan, where they're much more boxy because they don't need a driver. She's waking up in the back of one, and it's full of shoe boxes, so I guess it's delivering shoes, which would also explain where she got the Blade Runner universe's version of Converse from. She wakes up, and she doesn't remember anything about herself, except for a few things. She remembers her name is Elle. She has a Black Lotus tattoo, hence the name of the show, on her shoulder blade, and she has this data pad there, and she thinks the data pad may help explain who she is, but she doesn't know how to open it up. So, a mystery box almost, quite literally, and she knows an address. She believes this address to be her home, but when the truck takes her to Los Angeles, she finds that the home looks very different. It's much grungier and depleted looking than she thought it would be. It's the Blade Runner universe. And she says, and this is one thing I found interesting, she says it's the middle of the day, but in the city it looks like it's night. And that was one of the things, is I always thought that the Blade Runner movies just took place at night. But this idea that the city is so polluted and smoggy that it looks like it's nighttime all the time, that's an interesting concept. I really do like that. So that's a cool idea for the show. But she goes into the town and she starts exploring, looking for this address, and she remembers it's next to a mural of an angel. City of Angels is the title, I guess, right? And then you get the ramen shop scene, which kind of does illustrate, what this show's like. She goes up and has this kind of awkward conversation with the owner there. Oh, food. I would like food. Oh no, I don't have any money. I just have this data pad. Well, bye. And it's just this, obviously paraphrasing, but it's just this weird little conversation that just seems a little unnatural. And also, there's a background character there that's supposed to just look like an extra, but kind of fits that trope of clearly not an extra because there's way too much design work. It's this lady with pink hair and a yellow jacket, very similar to Ash's jacket from Blade Runner 2029. But anyway, she gets up and follows our lead, and there's a whole gang with her, and they attempt to rob the data pad from Elle, but she realizes she knows Kung Fu and just starts beating them all up and hides in a local pawn shop. Lucky for her, the pawn shop owner says, no one came in here, get out of there, and sends the gang away. She finds out that the pawn shop owner also hates the gang, and they make a deal that he'll open up the data pad if she can go beat up those thugs and make sure they never come and mess with the store again, and that's going to build to our action sequence. She grabs a coat and a sword from his pawn shop things and goes out to take them out, and that's going to lead into our big brawl for the episode. Yeah, like I said, big brawls, not usually a Blade Runner thing. This is definitely more action, definitely more pop, and not near as philosophical as the original Blade Runner. It's kind of fun to see her go around and fight people with the sword. Really not Blade Runner-y though. It's the world of Blade Runner, but definitely a very different story. And yeah, seeing a girl run around in Converse, it's different and it's more poppy, but it's fine, The animation's not great, the voice acting's a little weird, but, for just a dumb, fun cartoon, and, I'm a big Blade Runner fan, and it's sad that there's been very little extended media. You got the 2 movies, you got Kurt Russell's Soldier, which is like a side film. I think there's a few shorts that came out when Blade Runner 2049 did, and then you had the comics, and that's pretty much it, I wish Blade Runner had more things, and while this show isn't the best show, it's fun, and I'm glad to watch it. I do wish it was way better, but I'll take what I can get, and hopefully, if this does get enough attention, maybe they'll give us something better. Maybe this will be a mini-series, and then rather than a season 2, they'll do a series of mini-series, each one being its own plot, and maybe some of those will get really good. I don't know, just spitballing. Overall, it's not great, but it's fine, and I'll definitely stick around for the rest of the series. And episode 2 did get a little better, and I'll definitely have a review for that coming out pretty soon. But anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll put a relevant playlist on the bottom. This will be my Blade Runner playlist. Episode 2's review might be in there. If I've had time to post it, it might be in there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Blade Runner playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.